Hello, everyone. It's Good Friday today, so I'd like to wish you all a peaceful and thoughtful, reflective Easter. I'm not going to talk much about Easter today because I'm going to talk more about it on my written blog on Sunday, but I thought I'd talk about something related, I think, today, which is honesty, the power of truth. And I've got my sword here today. I think it's a 17th century rapier. I'm not quite certain. And that's because the sword is a symbol of the truth. You'll remember that in the old statues of outside law courts, you see the blind lady of justice carrying a sword in one hand and scales to weigh the truth in the other. And anyway, what prompted me to this was I've been reading my own work. I'll explain why in a minute, and trying to appraise it critically, honestly, its weaknesses as well as its strengths. And I remember that when I was a professor, I used to be a professor of creative writing in the States. The most common comment on me from students in student evaluations was that I was brutally honest. And it was a kind of a backhanded compliment, I suppose. I mean, obviously I liked it that the students recognized my honesty. I never really thought that I was brutal, but perhaps I was. Perhaps I underestimated how tough I could be. But anyway, that really stuck with me. So I'm going to talk a little bit about honesty, both with regard to other people, to telling the truth to other people, but also with regard to yourself. For those who don't know me, my name is Gary Craig Powell. I'm a writer. I've published 2 books, Our Parent Who Art in Heaven, Flame Books, 2022, and Stoning the Devil, Skylight Press, 2012. There will be more books coming out, certainly one more this year, translation. I hope another 2. My third novel will I think be coming out fairly soon too. Anyway, welcome. I write the blog Write Dangerously on Substack, and I hope if you're interested in what I say, you'll subscribe to that. It's completely free. I hope you'll subscribe to this channel, also called Write Dangerously, also completely free. It costs you nothing. Do please like, comment. Every single engagement helps the channel, whether you merely like or comment. Even a one-word comment is very useful. It helps push us up in the algorithms. So, generally speaking, my videos on literary subjects have not been popular. Perhaps people just don't read much these days. But I'm going to take the risk of talking a little bit about my book, Our Parent Who Art in Heaven, because I found a Portuguese translator for it. I live in Portugal. And, a Portuguese publisher, and it was translated by a friend of mine. I don't want to talk too much about the translation, but it did need some revisions, and I my Portuguese is pretty good, and I'm making the revisions myself, fairly extensive ones, before the book goes to the editor for final copy editing and then publication. So it's made me think about the strengths and weaknesses of my own work, and the fact that in general it's really difficult to get an honest appraisal of your work, whether you're a student or a professional writer who's trying to get reviews, particularly professional reviews from people. And I'll talk a little bit about why that is. First of all, if you're in a creative writing program, particularly in the States, where there's this culture that everyone must be kind at all times, which is in some ways is a good thing. Also, there's the culture that the customer, the client, is always right, and of course the creative writing programs are funded by the students, really. So they are in some ways in control. And it became clear to me when I was a creative writing professor in an American program that some of the other professors, and I dare say most of them, were not completely honest. They tended to flatter the students. I remember once taking a group of students to another university on an exchange, and them all telling me how frightened they had been of me, and one particular student saying, "You're not like this certain married couple who taught with me. They always say that we're all special and they love all of our work." And that sounds very nice. Of course, it's reassuring, but I said, "And how does that make you feel? Do you believe them?" And the girl said to me, "Well, not necessarily, no. I mean, you're brutally honest, but at least we do know that you mean what you say." And because I'm trying to be brutally honest with myself as well, this particular girl, I remember saying that she had said that when she first went into my class 2 or 3 years earlier, I think, I had told her that she would never be a writer. Now, if I did say that, I didn't have any memory of that, and I still don't. I think that was very wrong. The purpose of a creative writing class is to encourage creativity, and even if someone hasn't got the talent to be a professional writer, and it's extremely difficult to tell with very young students who haven't read or written much anyway, that doesn't really matter. They should be simply encouraged to be creative, to explore their creativity, their imagination, and learn about literature through writing. So if I ever did say that, I was wrong, and I apologize very, very belatedly. I don't think that was a good thing to say, but I do think that the fact that the students knew that when I said something was very well done, they could at least trust that my opinion was sincere. I think that that's useful. And I found as a creative writing student myself that I rarely got very useful criticism, either from faculty or fellow students. In fact, I think creative writing programs are a waste of time. But, I occasionally got some honest opinion, and there was some use in that. And once you become a professional writer, and by professional I don't mean that you're making money, because almost none of us do, but a published writer who's out in the world, as it were, it's still very difficult to get honest opinions, particularly from reviewers. I mean, it does happen occasionally, but generally speaking, if you're being reviewed in the big places, the big magazines and newspapers, the New Yorker, the Times Literary Supplement, the Guardian, and so on, it's because you're already well known, and probably the people reviewing you are your friends, and they're going to give you very kind reviews, which is why most of the reviews you read can't really be trusted. I think the reviews you find in places like Amazon and Goodreads are a bit more reliable, particularly if you've got a lot of reviews, too many to simply be the friends and family of the writer. That can be honest. But I think truth is something which is in a very short supply in public life these days. And as you get older, and one of my friends has cancer at the moment, I'm worried about him, and of course aware that my own mortality is not so far distant either. I think you want to be honest with yourself. You want to think, what have I achieved, if anything? And so in that spirit, and in the spirit of Easter, in the sense that I think we can all, if we have any eternal life, it's because we are 100% honest with ourselves about our sins, about our weaknesses, but also our strengths. There's no need to be falsely modest. It pays to look at your own work honestly. So I'm going to try to do that just very briefly. So my first book, Stoning the Devil, is a linked collection of short stories. The publisher called it A Novel in Stories, set in the Middle East, in the Gulf, actually, and largely about the lives of Arab women in the Middle East, and largely about their love lives, their abortive love lives, really, and some of the oppression and abuse that they get in a very patriarchal society, an often brutal society. And some of the ingenuity and imagination, in fact, that they show in order to gain at least some control over their own lives. I think, honestly, it's a pretty good collection of stories. I wouldn't class it up there with the very best of, say, Chekhov or de Maupassant. It was my first book. I think I sometimes was too melodramatic, which is a typical fault, I think, of beginning writers. And you want to make an impact. You want people to notice your story, and so I think you tend to overstate. I'm not a minimalist writer at all. I've always perhaps tended towards purple prose, but I think I definitely went for melodrama sometimes, too dramatic, too graphic, violence. Not that it was unreasonable or unrealistic in the stories, but now, looking back, knowing what I know now, I would be a bit more restrained if I were to write those stories now. I would leave more out. I'd leave more to the imagination of the reader, which I think is always a good thing to do. The new book, well, it's not new, it's 2022, whose Portuguese translation I'm revising. Our Parent Who Art in Heaven, it's a satire set in academia in America in the present day, and it's kind of about feminist and woke takeover of the academy, the cancel culture. The hero is a Welsh guy called Hugh Lloyd-Jones, who falls foul of the feminists, basically, and gets cancelled. And I have to say, I think the comedy holds up very well, even though I've read the book dozens of times and haven't read it for a long time. And I'm now reading it in Portuguese, and where not many of the jokes don't work, I'm still finding it's amusing me a lot. And so I think it really works as satire. It was compared to the work of Tom Sharp, Evelyn Waugh, Martin, one of the Amoses, I can't remember if it was Martin or Kingsley or both. And I think those are fair comparisons. If the book has weaknesses, there are some very serious themes in it. There's mental illness in it, and I don't make fun of the mental illness. I understand that's serious and sad, but there's a relationship in the book. It's the hero and his wife, actually, and their marriage is falling apart because of his wife's mental illness, and that, of course, is serious. You could argue that the serious parts sort of annul the comedy, or you could perhaps argue that the comedy kind of annuls the serious parts. I don't know. There's also some magic realism in it. The character has kind of visitations really, from angels who give him advice in Latin, often sung Latin. some people might think that doesn't sit well with the comedy. It's certainly a very ambitious book. I tried to do lots of things in it. I was trying to encompass a spiritual journey, a journey that taught the main character about love, about what love really is, rather than the sort of sentimental version he had of it. And also, a satire on the excesses of woke culture. So it may be that I bit off a bit more than I could chew. It may be that I was a bit too explicit. Sometimes, with satire, you can't be too subtle with satire. You have to be fairly explicit. Whether I overdid it or not, I don't know. But I think those would be my criticisms of my own work. And if I were to honestly try to appraise it, as a satire, I think it deserves to stand alongside Amis and War. I mean, it's a very original book. I don't think anyone can deny that. How good is it? I mean, I don't think I'm in the top 5 or 10 living writers. Perhaps it sounds conceited even to mention that possibility. But no, I don't think I am up there with Amis and Rushdie. But I think, honestly, if I were to try to appraise it as the work of someone else, yeah, I think it would be in somewhere in the top 100 or a couple of 100. I do think it's pretty good. Maybe not good enough. Perhaps that isn't good enough. A Portuguese writer, Lobo Antunes, who just died, said, "It's not worth writing unless you're the best." I don't think I'm the best. I'm not a Tolstoy or a Dostoevsky. I think I'm just a pretty decent writer. Anyway, those are my thoughts. This is the sword of truth. I hope you will use it too. And I will say goodbye, my fellow free spirits, dangerous writers, over men and over women, and I'll see you again soon. Do look out for my blog on Sunday, which will be about Christianity, King Charles, I think. Well, we'll see. Okay, bye-bye.